tonight will be desire and volition. Desire and volition. So I'm just waiting for Gregory to join us. Answer show with me, Saad, asking questions to my colleague Gregory. And of course you can join in with your questions too. So I can see now Gregory's joined us. Welcome, Gregory. How are you doing?
One is fine.
Okay, you're gone. And how is the weather where you are?
As usual, it's cast.
Okay.
It's not warm at all. It's getting cold.
Getting cold, yes. Did you say gusts, like windy?
It's overcast.
Overcast, okay. And is it windy or is calm?
It's a bit windy.
Okay. So here in London right now, it is, I won't call it overcast, but there is clouds there, and the sun is still out, and we do have a bit of wind, not severe, just a little bit there. So welcome listeners. As I've said, the topic we are going to be discussing tonight in the show is desire and volition. Desire and volition. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage there, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is desire and volition. Desire and volition. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1 there, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, Gregory and listeners, I always like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic in the dictionary so that we can look at these concepts. What are we talking about? So the first word there is desire. And I've got only one meaning this time in the dictionary. It says a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. Let me repeat that. A strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. And they give us an example of that. He resisted public desires for choice in education. So Gregory, how good is this definition of the word desire?
It seemed to be very helpful because it conveys the picture of what desiring is for many.
That's good. That's a good news. Many times we have been disappointed with the meanings given in the dictionary, so I'm actually very happy to hear that. Thank you. Let us go to the next word, volition. In case somebody is wondering what this word might be alien for them, I'm going to spell it. I'm just saying that because I'm not too sure if many people are aware of this word. So volition, the spelling is V-O-L-I-T-I-O-N, volition. So let's look at the meaning there again here in the dictionary. It says the faculty or power of using one's will. And they give an example of this one. So just to repeat, the faculty or power of using one's will. So the example they give, without conscious volition, she backed into her office. Gregory, what about this one? How good is this definition?
It is helpful, but there are some key things that are missing in that word volition.
Do you want to point them out now?
No, I thought you were going to discuss.
Well,
is that the only aspect?
That's the only. Let me just. I was going to. There's the word will there. So I decided, let me look up the meaning of the word will. I think most of us have what I will say, Gregory, most of us have our own, let's say, unconscious definitions in our head already. And that's why I really like to say them at the beginning of the show, so that we are basically on the same page if people are having different idea of what their definition is. So I wanted to look up the word will. Let me repeat, volition. It says the faculty or power of using one's will. So I said, let me try to find out what does the will means. So will, they give in the dictionary, giving me two definitions. I must admit, when I read them, I'm not quite sure they help at all. So the first meaning of the word will, it says expressing the future tense. So that is
That
not.
doesn't seem to be helpful.
That's right. The next one, expressing inevitable events. Accidents will happen. So they're saying this is expressing inevitable events. How's that one? Agreed.
Again, you see, these words, these expressions are used in different contexts. And this one is pointing to the future, whereas what we wish to use is a noun or a verb which precisely gives the right impression of will, whereas what you have just mentioned is not the case.
Yes, I don't quite even know if the dictionary looked at the two definitions I've been talking about and referred to with volition. You'll say, well, that's not the will they mean for sure when they talk about volition. So there's no sense of future when you talk about volition there, the way they've talked about here. So I got it. So let's not get confused too much. Let's go back. So the volition, the meaning they gave in the dictionary, the faculty or power of using one's will.
That is helpful in the sense there's a key there, which is power. And
Yes.
If one looks at the expression will, one may also say, when you say, I have my will, that means there's a written document there.
Yes.
So with a written document, it's like you have put down certain things which need to be done in case of this, in case of that. In that particular scenario, it is a noun.
Yes.
And so it's more like a structure of the activities which have to be carried out. So the will points to more like a law that has to be accomplished, it has to be fulfilled. Just like we talked about the will of the Almighty, which are expressions of the laws of nature or the laws of creation, sometimes referred to as divine will. So when volition is mentioned, and power is also mentioned in volition, the picture or the scenario or the concept which arises is that there is power behind a will. That means there is power behind the laws which have been woven into. So the volition as such takes into consideration the will or the laws which have been woven into it, and also the power. And that's what makes it different from desiring.
Thank you. Thank you, Gregory. This is really helpful in clarifying, these two different words. It could easily be, somebody could make a mistake and think, oh, they're not much different. Desire and volition. One is to do with the will. The other one is, let's say, your wish. But really, there's the word power that we've just talked about, which is not in the word desire. There's no feeling or sensing of power there. But will within it gives the idea there's a power in it or involved in this. So yes. So you can say when one reflects on these words in a quiet way, you can get a real picture, what is behind it. So yes. Now what I do, Gregory and listeners, in every show now, because we have this thing called AI, artificial intelligence, you can now put a phrase there and see what it comes up with. And it's quite, let's say, again, I can use the word helpful, just for the discussion. I don't want us to ever rely on these things, but they just, as Gregory, you said in the past many times, these are pointers. Some of these definitions we get are pointers. So let us see what it says in this case. So this is what I put in the Google AI was desire and volition. And it came up with these words. Desire is a fundamental wish or impulse for something, while volition is the act of consciously choosing and acting on those desires, often by reflecting on them and deciding which ones to pursue or act upon. A key philosophical distinction, particularly from Harry Frankfurt, involves, I think I'm going to leave this one out because it's getting too specific rather than staying on the point, I will say. Let me just repeat, Gregory. Desire is a fundamental wish or impulse for something, while volition is the act of consciously choosing and acting on those desires, often by reflecting on them and deciding which ones to pursue or act upon. Gregory, is this, how can I say, are these words helpful as well?
One has to be careful because the more you ask AI, which collects what is out there and puts them together, the more confusing it may become. But some key expressions in the case of desire, which is in which you have wishes, nothing is done about those wishes. Whereas volition, there are power is associated with it, and will, which is more like a law that has to be accomplished, is associated with it. So one can see the two expressions, desire and volition, which volition has a structure on how things need to be accomplished with the power behind it.
Right. I notice, yes, I of course, as I said at the beginning, we made that, pointed this out. In the AI, it is not talking about power, it's for sure. It's talking about the act of consciously choosing and acting. So we could say when you are choosing consciously, you are directing the power by choosing a direction or acting on a direction. Then you are now, you could say, directing a power. So it's not fully declared, let's say, directly, but it is implied. Well, if you think about it, reflect on it, you might say, well, then you need power to make an action. Without that, you can't do it. So even though they don't mention the word power, they're saying you're choosing something consciously and acting on it. So I guess there are many ways to express something, Gregory. So we don't want to be too nitpicking in these words and getting stuck, you could say, in these points. Let us move forward, I think I will just say. Okay. I'm going to now, let's say, go to the, let's say, general questions. Now, so Gregory, in life, we are always wanting things, so we're always having wishes. Now, so one may wonder, is that a good idea in terms of, it's, in quotes, the word wish, there's nothing bad or wrong in it from the objective way. But then you could say, what about if we are having lots of earthly wishes, because after all, this show is about spiritual, we call it a spiritual discussion program. And yes, we have our earthly wishes, plenty of them, maybe too many of them. And so my first question, Gregory, really is, should we be limiting our earthly wishes? Or desire is the word that we are calling it. I'm using that word desire, really, let's say.
Well, you use desire, that means basically wishes.
Yes.
It all depends on what these wishes are. One should never forget that one is here on earth in order to experience. And these experiences which the individual goes through, the effects of it are passed on to the spirit. That is why one is here on earth. However, only those experiences which are of benefit to the spirit, those are the ones which one may desire. Those experiences which are not of benefit, that is time wasting, gambling, and all sort of things, those experiences will not be of benefit to the human spirit. That means the time and energy which are associated with such have been done in vain.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I'm trying to absorb what you've said there. So yes, so we are not going to say limit your wishes, because it's what type of wishes are you having, obviously. You know, everything, the way I was hearing you, it was like there's a balance, you know, healthy balance, you can say. If you, whatever you do, if it's excessive, you know, something will be damaged, or you know, there'll be something getting out of balance. You know, let's say you overwork. No, that's not about wishes, but overwork. Then of course it has a damage to other aspects of our life. We'd only focus on one aspect and not other aspect because of this overworking. So that obviously has some damaging effect. And if your wishes are directed, let's say, only on one aspect of life, then it means you're ignoring other aspects, or not putting the enough or sufficient effort. Maybe, again, I mustn't say 100% these things, because as you point out, Gregory, there are times you need to put more effort in one direction to achieve the goal that you might have. You know, let's say, just to pick an example so that it doesn't look all theoretical. Say you're setting up a business, and your business, that is, and you it will take a lot of things to be put in place for it to run, and that would take much more time and focus than other things. And maybe, for example, you wouldn't eat your lunch or something. I know that might sound a little bit extreme, but something like that people might do a little bit, let's say, unusual things when they are focused so much on one thing in life, which of course is, say, pointing out again, there has to be a balance. So there would be some results out of this. Now, yeah. Now, Gregory, I was thinking, how do the wishes arise? There's so many questions in this topic tonight, and I don't want to get sort of completely out of sort of some other direction. But let me just go there in this one. So, okay, I'll say it like this, Gregory. Can all our desires be fulfilled?
I repeat the question, can all our
Can
desires...
can all our desires or wishes be fulfilled?
Well, it depends what the specific desires are.
Hmm.
If these desires are um, they they are so deep that one does not have the capability of fulfilling them, then of course they won't be fulfilled. You cannot. Some people will desire that they can fly to the sun just for the sake of it. Doesn't mean that they can. It can be fulfilled and they take off in a rocket. Some may say, okay, they can just go to the moon or just jump into a plane. It depends. So one cannot just talk of all desires being fulfilled. Many a time, people just have desires, but they don't have any structure behind it to back it or the power which is associated with a volition. So this desiring just is just mere wishes which have no framework.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I jumped a question I was going to ask earlier than this question, but I switched the order. So let me say, okay, in a way you've answered it. The question would have been, are our dreams really achievable or fantasy? Which is, in a way you've answered it. When I said dreams, I was talking, of course, about the desires. Are our dreams really achievable or fantasy? And I think, is there anything you'd like to say to that one, Gregory? Yeah, I think you've said it already.
It is surprising on equating desires to dreams. The impressions are so very different because these are different expressions and it means different things to different people. The dreams are basically aspirations, not just desiring.
Hmm.
All right, these dreams for many, these are aspirations, what they would like to accomplish. And in that case, gradually these dreams become a firm volition through the efforts which the individual engages in. So one should differentiate dreams from just mere desiring. Dreams which are backed up or aspirations. My aspiration or my dream, you find these expressions used interchangeably. These aspirations or dreams basically are backed up by firm actions, firm activities. Otherwise, they just become desires because there's no backing.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I've got many more questions to ask you, but before I do that, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth. The Grail Message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is desire and volition. Desire and volition. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. If you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage there, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again that's the number 1 there, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which is tonight desire and volition. And after the show, that is after 8 p.m. tonight, you can listen to the recording of the show again on YouTube. And again, you write the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space Grail Message, space desire and volition. And we're also broadcasting in the third place. Yes, the third one is called Zeno. ZENO .FM /radio / Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, the previous question I asked, are our dreams really achievable or fantasy? And you distinguish that word dreams from the word desire, because the dreams are like aspiration, and desire is our wish, quite, you could say, and that was good. We had to be clear about this one. Now, I have another question, which is, can all our volition be fulfilled? So can all our volition be fulfilled?
Again, it depends on what the volitions are. If the volitions are not in accordance with our capability, our intrinsic capability, then they cannot be fulfilled. If, however, those are within our capability, then the high probability is that, yes, they can be fulfilled.
Thank you for that. But then I have a question on that, because volition, we have said it requires power to sort of manifest our, let's say, the desire or wish. So that's, and if it is, we are using power, which I'm now, there's so many sub-questions in this point, so I'm going to have to just, let's say, halt in a minute. So let me just start with a different question, and before I go to this question directly. So Gregory, in the word volition, we have said it requires, let me just quickly check what we said at the beginning. In the dictionary, it says for the word volition, the faculty or power of using one's will. So that's involving using one's will, and that is involving power in it. So this power, Gregory, I just want to be clear. Is it some power that we have, or is it another power?
The power you are referring to is the power which the individual, depending on his state, that power which is able to bring into his command and use. That is the power one is referring to. If the individual has no access to higher power, how can he or she then use it? So it depends on the individual, on the innate ability that it has cultivated if it has cultivated that intrinsic power to reach for something which is quite high spiritually, then before too long, it's able to accomplish it. Else, with the challenges which accrue in order to achieve a particular aim, you will find many will just give up, even if they have that desire or they have that aim for it or that aspiration.
Thank you very much for this clear answer there, Gregory. What I'm getting there, yes, we don't have the power as human beings. However, we are using a power, which the way we can use it or how we use it, it depends on how you could say, stand. And, so the first part of that, I can see that it's not about somebody is more powerful than me, and that's why they can achieve more than me, or whatever they can achieve with this power. It's not that. It's that we are using, that I will say, to make it clear, there is just really one power, which we all can use, but how each of us uses it is according to how we stand, just to put it in a very clear and simple way. But this way, how we stand, we have to look at it as well. In one sense, Gregory, how we stand is how much we are aware, that first there is a power that we are using, and number two, do we have the talent to, let's say it's a child, how can I say, I think there's, child plays, usually you see the child playing, and it's just, in a way, he's using a power to play that is there, with toys. Let's make it simple example, right? He may not have any big purpose about it. Just he's trying to do something with the toys. Have fun, you can say. Just explore and so on. And then I know that one doesn't require so much like a power, big powerful power, just something to do, you can say. However, it's the child, you don't expect the child to know too much. It's almost they're playing and experimenting. However, as an adult, we would have had some experience by that time, and so we would have some idea, or we can achieve this with this, using the power in this way, or use the power to create, let's say not create, but make something with another way, according to our, you could say, knowledge. That's where I was going there, Gregory, that according to the level of our knowledge, we can, you could say, achieve more. So it's not about having the power so much, it's about knowing how to use the power. So, yeah, my question there then is the results that we achieve, Gregory, with our desire and volition, does it depend on our knowledge of, how can I say, what we are able to achieve?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, sorry, I've been going around the circle there. So what I'm asking is what we are able to achieve with our desire or volition, does it depend on the knowledge that we have? Yes, I'm not going into very much specific. I just want to say on that the word knowledge. In a sense, I'm pointing to knowledge of using the power that is there.
Well, it all depends not only on the knowledge, but on the will to make use of the knowledge accordingly. Because you may have a knowledge, a piece of knowledge, and you don't make use of it, you're not going anywhere. If, however, you strive to make use of it in accordance with the laws of creation, of the laws of nature, in which you have to exert yourself physically, in which you have to exert yourself in your thoughts, in which you have to exert yourself in your intuitions, most likely one is able to accomplish the task which it requires. If, however, you have the knowledge and yet you do nothing and keep desiring, nothing happens.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I've just reflected on all what I've said and you've said. Earlier we were talking about dreams. So when you have a dream for something you want to achieve, let's say fly, I don't say fly to the sun, but fly, let's say just on this earth, A to B. And I'm not talking just taking a flight, something a little bit more innovative maybe. So what I'm trying to say is this is something you wouldn't be aware of how to achieve it. I mean, yes, we know there's this earth, air, and so on, those things, but the actual method, and that's how an inventor works. There's a problem, or there's some need, and they don't know how they're going to achieve that at the beginning at least, but they have that wish or desire to find a solution or invention, which will, not find, but make an invention to achieve whatever the desire happened to be, or which is, let's say, going A to B, but not through something that already exists. Some other approach is required here. So, and you wouldn't know at the beginning how to achieve that. What is, yes. So now, and all of this, I don't want us to ever think that I'm trying to think of some fantasy here, or we are talking about reality, that these things can be done, or, otherwise we would never have new invention if somebody thought something can't be developed, So, yes, so I'm saying there is I don't have anything specific that I can point to right now, just saying A to B. I want to go A to B with something that doesn't exist right now, which and we need like an inventor to come up with a solution for that. So, and even the inventor doesn't have an idea right now how to do that. So my question on that is Gregory, so we have a desire, we have some knowledge, because we don't have the whole knowledge of how to go to A to B in this particular, let's say, new mode, or to achieve it. The person might have an idea of what is this new mode they want to go. Let me say something, I know it's a science fiction, but at least we can picture it. So let's say in the future, there will be these, how can I say, flying cars, which we have seen them on science fiction, and it looks really possible in theory. That should be possible to have such a flying car, because we have a car and things do fly. So why it can't be a flying car? So, but the approach how to make it would not be clear, let's say right at the beginning. So where I'm going there, Gregory, in fact, it just sounds like similar to having dreams, whether they're real or feasible or not. But the question I want to say here, Gregory, you have some amount of knowledge and you have the desire you want to achieve something. And then we've said there's a volition, which is the will to make that volition, let's say, the desire turn into reality, that it comes into reality. Is that what I want to ask there? Is that sufficient to bring things into reality? Do we need the desire, the volition, and I mean, if you look on the material level, the physical level, you'll say, I need resources, I need money, and I need that. But I want to start from before that. I want to start, because we're not saying you have to be a millionaire to achieve such thing. You should be able to, having that wish, like a dream, let's say inventor, and then you bring something new, and you don't have to have all the resources initially to achieve it. So, Gregory, is that, how can I say, possible to achieve? Um, an idea turned into reality with not the full knowledge, and but with the willpower, the volition being there.
Many of the things which are referred to as inventions start from very simple ideas. But the question each individual must ask themselves, where did these ideas come from? When one considers that the human personality is able to observe things in deeds, that means to see it, to touch it, and use most likely the five senses, and also the human personality has its thoughts, and above all, its intuitions. Basically, some of these ideas have a bearing on one's intuition or a bearing on one's thoughts. However, to make these ideas realizable in deeds, there is the need for the individual to look into the environment and see how different products, different elements can be brought together to form the basis for the realization. So these things are not done in an arbitrary manner. The individual must reflect very carefully along the path that has been shown to it. It must also look at the environment to see how it will fit in. One may not talk of so-called a flying car and all of a sudden it's there. That's completely out of the question. For very simply, you can imagine everybody has a flying car. Now, ask yourself, what about the traffic? With the cars we have currently, there are paths which have been well cut out, which the cars will have to take. If, however, it's a flying car, that becomes a challenge. The planes you find out there, the airplanes, the aircraft, they do not act in an arbitrary way at all. For paths have been hewn out, which they have to follow. So these things are not done in an arbitrary manner. And in the case of the so-called flying car, you will find that a framework has to be put in place so as to be able to direct the car. Else, everybody can be driving the way they wish, flying in everywhere, and it will be a catastrophe. Everything will come crashing down. So it's not just having the knowledge and having the capability and doing things in an arbitrary fashion. That is not the way to ensure things are done properly. Therefore, one must not just start allowing its brain to run riot and things can be invented in such an arbitrary fashion. There are rules, there are ground rules which are put in place, and to see the effect of such inventions, that they do not subsequently impact the environment and individual adversely. These things will have to be checked. Similar to what happens when you have vaccines or you have in the pharmaceutical industry. So you will find that as long as the individual harbors that which is genuine, which will be of benefit, and has the innate capability to achieve something, that still has to be considered within the environment to find its impact on the environment and also on fellow human spirits. Only then can things be controlled in such a way. Else, things will be done in an arbitrary manner, which will make it untenable. So there is a need always to reflect very carefully.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture you painted for us. It's good. I know I, in quotes, gave a science fiction type of example of a flying car from A to B, inventing it. But it's like a good visual way of looking at the situation. And now we can sort of look at the more close to reality. There are, let's say, things happening in our lives. Of course, as human beings, we're always interacting with our fellow human beings, our relatives, and so on and so on. And let's say there are problems. You know, people don't agree in life in many places. Of course, they do agree as well. But where they don't agree, there seem to be difficulties. And of course, it requires coming to a resolution. If you want to achieve something. And then because people see it differently, it may not be easy to bring the, like when we're talking about inventing something, we're not really having to, well, I say in general, you're not having to fight with another person on that. It's more about coming to and trying things and making them work. Now we're working with fellow human beings in issues that maybe we don't agree. But then this is the environment that we have to go through. So I want to go to that now. And in this regard to desire and volition, because each person, we know, let's say from our previous many shows, that each human being has his own free will. Everyone. So it means each person can make their own decision, which of course can disagree with another person's decision when you're having to work together. So now when I want to look at this situation where you have a desire, the other person you're involved with also has their desire, okay, and you want to achieve, both of you want to achieve whatever it is, which let's say is conflicting. It means, well, let me ask you on that, Gregory, when you have these conflicting, let's say, wishes or desires, can it really be, and can one person's will or another person's will sort of make a result? I'm trying to think how to say that, because it looks like you're overpowering the other person. So one person's will can overpower another person's will to reach a result, which is of course not going to be a happy one for one of the PR party at least. But can one overpower? Let me say it like this, Gregory. I wish I could give you some example, like in real world. Okay, I will come up with this one. So I was going to use it in a different way, but we've heard of Nikola Tesla, the famous, you could say, inventor, and he was less like a genius in having ideas and solving problems, electric well, not only electric field, but even mechanical field, you can say. So electricity is famous for one of them, especially, which is the electric alternating current. Is what he, let's say, found a way to transport electricity, let's call it. And there was another competing way to transport electricity called direct current, which was being used by Edison. And they were both initially, actually, they came together in this field. Anyway, so Gregory, so what I want to ask on that point, that says one person has one desire and will, let's call it with regards to direct current, that's what they want to go forward with. And the other one, he wants to go forward with alternating current, competing wishes. And can one of these wills overrule, not overrule, win over the other one just by the will alone, or other aspects are, you know, because let's say our circumstances, somebody has more money than us, they're able to, let's say, achieve more because of the money. So is material circumstances able to override our will in what we want to do, what we are wishing for?
You gave an example, and later on there was a deviation from that example. One should know that only through the activities, only through the effects of the activities can people come to a better conclusion. You mentioned the case of Edison and Tesla. Edison wanted direct current, but he couldn't go for that. Whereas Tesla wanted alternating current and could go much, much further. So there is no context. That you have money does not mean you have the solution. That you have a solution to a problem that can easily be fabricated in a small way. It is possible to have asked Edison, go ahead with your direct current and see how many people you can reach. Whereas the case of Tesla, everything we now use basically is alternating current. That means the whole world had to buy into it. But the key thing here is that he had the structure, he had the firm volition, he had the knowledge. So it is the effect when you have your thoughts, when you have your intuitions and you have your deeds. How do these subsequently appear to many? How much can you realize with this level of knowledge that you have? If you do not have that deep level of knowledge, you cannot grant people that which you yourself do not have. And that is why you find the case of Edison. He couldn't go further. Whereas the case of Tesla, yes, he could. So that's what one would say in these particular cases.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for that. And listeners, I apologize if I'm becoming very scientific in my examples here. And the reason I did that and said, not that I want to stick only to scientific examples. And of course, not everybody's into science. I also know that. So I apologize for that reason. But I just thought it gives a picture. I hope some of these things are familiar with you already. So it's not, I'm not talking some alien language. Even if you're not clear of the terms, you know, exact what these terms mean. But the words we are using is desire and volition. And we're looking at scenarios where, let's say, what we face. In fact, Gregory, I know I got a bit diverted. I was thinking of some difficulties within our, let's say, our own relationships that people have within their own, whatever it is, family, work, whatever it happens to be, because no two people are going to agree on everything. So where you don't agree, I was basically asking, can one will overpower another person's will? But that, as Gregory, you pointed out, it's not about just the will. We have to know there's like a structure there, a mechanism where things work. We are living in this world, this creation or earth. There are natural laws that are functioning there, and so on. Like I know, Greg, many times you have said in the past, we're all breathing. Everybody has to breathe in and out, right? So you can't avoid that one if you want to exist. So this is like a mechanism. It's not about science now, or about any particular field like that. That's reality. And when we have issues, there's also a reality. We have our will, we have our wishes. How are we going to resolve, let's say, our difficulties and issues? So this was a way to look at that. So thank you for that. I've got many more questions to ask, but before I do that, I want to say to all our listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushi. And every week we have a topic for discussion. Before I do that, if you wish to know more about the Grail Message, or you want to buy a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, that's GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is desire and volition. Desire and volition. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1. That's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And you can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail Message, space, desire and volition, which is the topic of the discussion tonight. So that you can listen to us live. After the show, that's 8 p.m. tonight, you can listen to the recording of this show. Again, you go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there again, space, Grail Message, space, desire and volition. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows as well. again on YouTube. Oh, welcome back, listeners. Apologies, we lost the connection, and we've got it back now. And I hope going to get Gregory joining us as well. So let's make sure Gregory is with us. Hello, Gregory.
Hello.
Okay, we are all back now.
Are we sure? I can see.
Yes. Yes, the Blessed Radio is on my screen with all of us together.
Okay, let me
So yes,
refresh my.
yes, yeah. Oh. Okay, maybe he's. Let me just check. Yes, everything's okay from what I can see now. So, listeners, I don't know how many minutes we got cut out.
Yeah.
I'll just try to recap. I was just trying to say that we talked about Nikola Tesla and Edison having different ideas of how to transport electricity. That was basically, and one of the systems in the end was successful. And the issue was about, is somebody's will able to, through their will, able to effect a particular result, Now I want to focus now on our personal life examples where maybe we don't get on, let's say, or some disagreement with a colleague at work or with something in family or something like that. And as I say, two different points of view, not able to come to any resolution. So again, we both have our free will. Let's just say it like that. We have our free will and we have our desires as well, wishes. So my question would be, for the scenario I would like to look at, is it possible through our will? It sounds like you to achieve a resolution, or let me say, to have a breakthrough in this issue that you're having with whoever happens to be work colleague or family member. And in a way, Gregory, I want to first look at, is it about the will, one person's will being stronger and more powerful than the other person's will to, I don't know if that will be called a resolution or just somebody overpowering the other person, you know? Can that achieve something when you import overpower one person over another person? Is that how can I say, is that achieving something there?
It must be stressed that it's not a matter of one's will versus another person's will. For success, for persistent success, for fundamental success, the will are not just compared to one another. That is completely out of the question. If, however, you have one's will which resonates in accordance with the laws of creation, with the laws of nature, in that particular scenario, the attainment of a particular task, to have that to happen, such resonance is able to draw the powers, to draw the wisdom that is necessary to accomplish that which needs to be done. That is the difference between, my will is better than this person's will. No, such comparisons turn out to be wrong. Even in the case of warfare, you may find one considering that their will is better than the others because they have arms and ammunitions and they can destroy so much. Of course, such victories are Pyrrhic victories. These are victories which are worse than defeat. In this forum, we are referring to spiritual knowledge, which spiritual knowledge is what benefits the individual human personality, which is of spirit. Therefore, if this will resonates in accordance with the laws of creation, then that individual is granted the opportunity to make possible many a thing which the brute may never have. So many times one shouldn't be looking at this, one should stop considering the surface of activities. It is the inner core of the activity that really counts. Because here or hereafter, it is one continuum. Therefore, one will find that although it may superficially seem that one has won, one will has overcome the other, that subsequently, on the long run, is not the case. And that is what you found in the so-called Second World War, where aggression was used extensively to destroy others. But subsequently, what then happened? The reverse. When the cup was full, the reverse came, and you find that actually it wasn't that the aggressor's will was better than the other's will, because the aggressor had prepared itself to do so much damage. That which is spiritual, of which this forum is about, is of upbuilding, of support to creatures in creation in accordance with the will of the Almighty, and not just such arbitrary behavior like you have in the case of Edison and Tesla. So one must move away from the old way of thinking in which that person that has the bigger hand wins. That may be true for boxers, where most of these things are vanities. But for that which should be of benefit to the human spirit, those activities must resonate with the will of the Almighty that made creation possible. For only through the will of the Almighty was the human personality ever able to come into existence. Only through the will of the Almighty was it possible to pave the way such that that human spirit gem had the opportunity to traverse to the world of matter in order to experience and grow. And when it matures in accordance to this will, it's able to return back home as a self-conscious human personality after having cultivated those talents, those virtues which have been sown into it. So that is the view the individual must have. Most of these other things of comparing one's will to the other, they are quite petty. Because of what use when you win a battle by brute force and destroy another, when subsequently, in accordance with the laws of creation, there will be reciprocal activity which will sort of entangle you, the individual, and you are unable to move forward. You are unable to come to some realization and become matured enough to move away from the world of matter before it disintegrates into its primeval substances. In that scenario, you are entangled in the world of matter and will be crushed. In that case, the individual loses its personality and is returned back to its origin, the paradise of man, as an unconscious spirit gem. It means that all the opportunities granted to it was in vain. That is not the way forward. That which is the way forward is for the human personality to become self-conscious, even through the arguments, even through the competitions, even through the one for all and all for one. That is what the human spirit needs to engage in order to achieve the purpose of its existence.
Thanks so much, Gregory, for this explanation and the picture you have been painting of this real context that we are meant to be living into and living in, rather than you say like petty. Well, it might not look like petty for the people who are involved, but when somebody from the outside is looking, they will see this is like petty. When they're fighting, one will trying to overpower another will, like you said, brute force or whatever it happened to be. But then there is the bigger will, without which you cannot even exist, which is the Almighty. And in the end, everybody has to, you could say, bow or align with that will, the Almighty's will. And that level of recognition is necessary if we're going to succeed in our lives, you can say. Yes, we can have temporary successes here and there, one moment of overpowering another person or making money or whatever it happens to be in the short term, in their one earth life or something that somebody thinks that's what life is all about. But actually, we are talking about the spiritual life, which is much bigger than just the one earth life. So thank you for that. I'm going to go slightly on a different angle now. This, we didn't address it at the beginning. So, we have these desires and wishes, but I was wondering, do these desires originate from needs, Gregory, or instincts or something, like they're born out of our certain circumstances? Or are they really like free idea of our own? Let me not get diverted too much. So are our desires born out of needs and instincts?
Instincts arise from the physical body, because, as we all know, the inner personality is of spirit. And when one is discussing instincts, these are the impressions or expressions that have arisen from out of the physical body in the world of matter. The needs of man, of the individual human spirit, those needs are spiritual. However, these needs which jolt the individual to seek, these needs have come into being when you have the scenario where there is that innate sensing of that which must be accomplished. And that is where the needs come in. So, two things. There are the needs which are necessary for the human body, and there are needs which are necessary for the spiritual individual. These work hand in hand, and both have to be satisfied. It's not that one should concentrate on one and ignore another. After all, one is on earth, and therefore the needs of the body must be taken care of. as the human personality, which is of spirit, makes use of the physical body. So you will find that your question is similar to the question which was asked of Christ: should we pay tax to the Romans? And he replied, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to the Lord what belongs to the Lord. Why? Because you find it is the tax the Romans collect that built the streets, that permitted trade here and there. So in a similar fashion, it is the physical body that enables the human personality, which is of spirit, to experience in the world of matter. So that which it needs must be granted to it in order for it to function properly, and the experiences which the spirit needs will be fulfilled in the sense that it gathers the external impressions and is passed back to the spirit to make use of for its maturity.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for that answer. Thank you for that. So what I'm seeing there, Gregory, of course, we know it's not about one person trying to overpower another. We know that, again, we're seeing this like a law of balance, whatever exists, it has a purpose. And in a way, the job is to find out what is the purpose. And then once you know it, then you respect that, like we say, all for one, one for all. Well, that is also showing respect. Respect not just for another fellow human being, but respect for what exists. Respecting that there is the law of nature. Even if you don't know exactly what this law of nature might be, there's something happening. One of the simple law we know: what you sow, you shall reap. The law of nature. Not only literally that you sow something like a seed into the soil, and then give the water, and the nature brings that rain and so on, and then produces the fruit. So that one is one obvious one from nature there. But then we ourselves are sowing through our deeds, through our thoughts, and then it is also bringing fruit. It's just a different type, and having, again, reminding us that we need to respect all of these, you could say, ways and activities. Now, what about Lucifer, or the devil, as some people name him? Is he able to, with his own will, somehow affect our deeds, our desires? Let me say, there's so many points in. I'm trying to say, yeah. Is Lucifer, the devil, is he able to, how can I say, prevent or cause some difficulty for us in our wish of desire and volition?
Lucifer only loves, or Lucifer and the minions only loves the individual. They do not come and impose things on you. They know you yourself have the free will, and they respect that. However, you find for the human personality that is not strong enough, the enticements are so alluring without giving it full consideration, many a person jumps into it. So it's best to leave Lucifer out of all of this. However, the individual must strengthen itself to be able to accomplish that which it needs to accomplish. If, however, the individual is so very weak, then in that scenario, a simple temptation most of the time overcomes the individual. Again, it must be stressed, Lucifer doesn't compel you to do anything. It only tempts you, and without even understanding, you just fall into it. But for many who permit their intuitions to become alive, who strive to live in accordance with the laws of creation, who strive vigorously, who are always on the alert, who are vigilant, and do things in humility, Lucifer will have no time to pursue such. But for those who have nothing, who do not strive after sublime things, Lucifer and his minions will find work for such.
Thanks very much for this answer there, Gregory. I just want to let now the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprushi. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is desire and volition. Desire and volition. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We look forward to hearing from you. And I also wanted to say we are broadcasting also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail Message, space, desire and volition. That is the topic of our show tonight. And after the show, that's after 8 p.m., you can listen to the recording of this show. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space desire and volition. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/radio/less radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, my colleague who helps us with some questions has sent some questions here. I think they're, in a way, we have discussed them, so it's a bit hard to bring them in, but I will just say it just to that you're aware. Oh yes. Okay, so here's a good question, really. How can one tell the difference between desire and volition? I know we've sort of addressed it in a way, but maybe, let's say people haven't heard that. So, Gregory, how can one tell the difference between desire and volition?
Like was said initially, desires are basically wishes. Volition entails a plan, a will, and with it, the power to accomplish that plan or will. Whereas when it's a desire, it's only just a sensing, I desire this, and therefore what happens? Once that desire, when considered properly, you now convert it into a volition by having a plan in place. Then it is no more a desire. However, one must know that there are limits. There are limits based on the innate capability of the human personality. Hello? You're on mute, Farouki. Hello?
Apologies, listeners. I had to do something there, and I was on mute. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm back now. Apologies, listeners. I just got diverted, and I can get back quickly. So sorry for that. Thank you, Gregory, again for that. I want to just continue with some other questions from my colleague. They're saying I'm still on mute, but I'm not on mute now. Gregory, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Yes, I thought yes. I was on mute earlier, but I'm back now. Now, okay. They've given example of, okay. It's similar to the question I asked Gregory before. I'm just thinking, it's like, can you always fulfill your volition or your desire? So let me just give this particular way the person has asked that question. Can a desire become a volition? For example, when one is witness to an incident whereby another suffers bodily injury, and yet one is not able to prevent, for whatever reason, an accident, could this desire grow into a volition to, say, become a fireman, a doctor, paramedic, or even an engineer for some? I'm just going to say that one again. Can a desire become a volition? For example, when one is witness to an incident whereby another suffers bodily injury, and yet one is not able to prevent, for whatever reason, an accident, could this desire grow into a volition to become, say, a fireman, doctor, a paramedic, or even an engineer?
Yes, of course.
And Gregory, you know, we hear of tragedies, and so you can say even something may be tragedy, but something good can come out of that tragedy. And you hear a lot, let's say parents lose their children in some, again, incident, accident, whatever happened, some very awful way, let's say. And then in the memory of that child, they want to start a campaign or build something which is not for the sake of the child by itself as such, but for others, you know, to prevent, you could say, that happening to someone else, or let's say to get help, which the child didn't get that help, their child didn't get that help, but now for the future somebody else would have this help. So this type of things can be a spur to you know, produce a good, you can say, or it's more than just ordinary good, it's something bigger than that, I would say. So yeah, I'm not sure if we can add more to that. I'm thinking of some other phrases, Gregory, because you know, earlier we were talking about, let's say, when Jesus was asked, should one pay the taxes to the Romans, or just, you know, not do that? And he said, give to the Romans what is for the Romans, you can say, and then give to the Lord what is for the Lord. So this is it's like you know that he doesn't have to treat you like this. You're supposed to know that. But I'm thinking, you know, Gregory, I'm just coming up with my idea, let's say phrases that we are very familiar with, like where there's a will, there's a way, you know. So initially you may not have the way to achieve something, your will, because you are so, let me ask about this, Gregory. How do we keep that will, you could say, shall I say the word motivated or alive to achieve the success? Because just having the idea, we know the desire is not enough. So how do we, you could say, make things happen, you know, that, yeah, how do we ensure that we can achieve something that we want, that is, let's say, this one I'm talking about, which is in line with the will of the Almighty. So not something like we've moved on from those where we have been disagreeing or fighting or something, but something, let's say, good, like the example given here of the some accident happening and people are resolving to do something out of it. How do we maintain, Gregory, without to achieve that?
The inner attitudes of the individual counts a lot. For only through the inner attitudes in which it strives to awaken itself, into vigorous activities through its courage, through its vigilance, and through its alertness. Most of the time, you will find that only when the individual have had to suffer so-called misfortune, then and only then will it become awake. In order to prevent such misfortune repeating itself, it awakens and tries not only to observe the manifestation of the deeds, but even in his or her thoughts, it keeps reflecting on it persistently, and above all, in its intuition. It tries to keep these three different categories. Its intuition, the individual becomes more humble in his thoughts and in his deeds or her deeds. So you find if the individual has to move forward in accordance with the laws of creation or in accordance with the will of the Almighty, then you will have, in that case, what must have triggered it in its inattitude, it becomes vigilant. It becomes alert. Now it gathers the courage to move forward. Also, there is the diligence and selflessness, and it keeps observing. Strictly speaking, these are the virtues which the individual needed to have cultivated, which it might have ignored most of the time, but now, due to pressures that has arisen, it has been jolted to awaken, to cultivate these virtues. It must be steadfast in pursuing these goals, in trying to become alert. So it's not that today it's alert, tomorrow it goes back to bed. So the key here, there must be that earnest good volition. There's also must be that love to investigate deeper, that everlasting love to investigate deeper, and its readiness to serve. Readiness to serve means it needs to look into the matters objectively. I mean, to weigh and to examine. Also coupled with this should be the patience that the individual will need to cultivate and the perseverance. All this also means vigilance and alertness. Above all, there should be the absolute selflessness and dedication to what it has planned to do. For that plan, in accordance with the will of the Almighty, is the way it needs to follow. As long as the individual pursues everything along that direction, from one little step to another, it will find that different and new and better ways will open up. That is what it has not been doing. But now that it has resolved to go along that direction, these ways are open such that it may traverse it, experience it, become more alert, and is able to prevent many a catastrophe that would have struck it if it has remained the same.
Thank you for that, Gregory. You know, I asked earlier about the desire. Is it coming from needs or instincts? Then I also thought about volition. Is that truly a free choice, like an independent wish, or is it also, it could be dependent on needs or circumstances or pressures or influences? So yeah, let me repeat that one. Is our volition truly a free choice, or like an independent wish? Or independent is more than wish, I know. Independent, is it truly free and independent, or is it depend on needs or circumstances or pressures or influences?
Let's take this thing very carefully. Whenever you mention a volition, it's more like a plan in place. That plan in place is decided by the individual. If that plan is in place, which has been decided by the individual, and this plan resonates with the laws of creation or resonates with the will of the Almighty, then success is assured. For in a step-by-step manner, it will accomplish that which needs to be accomplished. Whether it is a need, actually, when you put a plan in place, it means there is a need. When you put a plan in place, you did not put it in place in an arbitrary way, or you didn't put it in place just because you want to do something. There must have been some impression that drive the individual. One may also consider that which you may call a desire, which may be physical. Of course, if it is physical, say like you have in the world of matter, you should have a plan for your health. The health of the physical body is necessary. So you need to put a regime in place to ensure that the necessary, what the body needs, are provided, not just mere desires. It's provided to allow the body to function efficiently.
Thank you very much for that. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight on the topic of desire and volition. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion. And now I'd like to read something which in fact inspired this topic tonight, desire and volition, from words in the Grail Message, or lecture, from a lecture in the Grail Message, which is titled The Inner Voice. So this is actually from the last, it's a page and a half from this lecture called The Inner Voice. And of course, it might not start like a flow, but I will start there. If man fails, it is always through his own fault, never because of the strength or weakness of his specific gifts. For just the fundamental gift, the actual power, the strongest part of man, which is the bearer of all life and immortal, is given to all alike. In this respect, no man has an advantage over another. All differences are due only to the way in which it is used. Neither can this fundamental gift, the immortal spark, ever be dimmed or tarnished. It remains pure, even amid the greatest filth. You need only tear the veil which you have wrapped around you through the voluntary limitation to which you have subjected your perceptive ability. Then, without transition, whatever, it will flare up again, as pure and clear as it was at the beginning, unfolding itself, fresh and strong, to unite with the spiritual. Rejoice that this treasure lies inviolable within you. It is of no importance whether you are esteemed by your neighbors or not. Every bit of dirt that has gathered like a dam around this spirit spark can be cast aside through honest goodwill. If you have achieved this and again liberated the treasure, you are worth just as much as he who never buried it. But woe unto him who through indolence completely closes himself to willing what is good. In the hour of judgment, his treasure will be taken from him, and he will then cease to be. Therefore awake, you who keep yourselves closed, you who have drawn the cover of your intellect with its limited ability to understand over your intuitive perception. Take heed and listen to the warnings that assail you, whether it be in the form of a terrible grief, a great emotional upheaval, severe suffering, or a supreme pure joy, all of which are capable of bursting through the dark layer of base feelings. Do not let any such thing go by without profiting from it. They are aids which show you the way. It is better if you do not first wait for them, but set out with the earnest volition for all that is good and for spiritual ascent. In so doing, the separating layer will soon become thinner and lighter again, till finally it disintegrates altogether, and the still pure, untarnished spark bursts forth into a blazing flame. But this first step must and can only be taken by the individual himself. Otherwise, he cannot be helped. Therefore, you must discriminate sharply between desire and volition. Nothing is achieved by mere desiring. It brings no advance. There must be a volition which impels and carries it into action. A serious volition is the beginning of a deed. Even if man must travel on various bypaths because in the past he had entirely enslaved himself to the intellect, he should have no fear on that account. He also will gain. For him it means to clarify his intellect and slowly to detach himself from and remove all hindrances through every single experience he has to undergo on all the bypaths. Therefore, advance bravely. With an earnest volition, every path will finally lead to the goal. Dear listeners, this was the last page and a half from the lecture in the Grail Message called The Inner Voice. If you want to get more information on the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night and God bless.